This meeting is being recorded.
Good evening and welcome back to Let's Talk Destiny Talk Show with Jamie Green. Previously, I had started a weekly conversation with my oldest son um, on the topic of the impact of incarceration on family members. Tonight, we're going to continue that conversation and discuss some uh, concerns and some realities of what happens when our family members are incarcerated. As I've said before, and we've heard other people say, when you have a loved one that is incarcerated, the whole family really is incarcerated, or everybody that loves that person is incarcerated and doing that time. So tonight, I want to continue our conversation. First, I want to say to my number one, welcome back to the Let's Talk Destiny platform.
Thank you for having me, Queen.
You're welcome. I'm grateful that you're willing to do this with me. Okay, so tonight I want to talk about the I want to talk about some of the things that are going on inside the prison system with regards to its impact on the inmates, which of course impacts the family. I want you to share with me um, the basic human rights that you feel are not being addressed or are being downright violated. I want to talk about medical care in these facilities, both mental and physical. And if we have time, I want to talk about rehab programs, rehabilitation opportunities, which may have to be a whole conversation by itself, because in actuality, what we're, excuse me, what we as society are being led to believe is that the whole prison system was set up for rehabilitation purposes. But, realistically, we know that's not true. So tonight, I want us to start with, what do you think are some basic human rights that are not being addressed or that are being violated in the prison system?
The first thing, again, as we discussed before, everything from the time of a person's, well, actually, from the time that a child is born, dealing with the birth certificate, but talking about criminal justice system. So, from the time a person is arrested, everything from that point is about the money or the Federal Reserve notes that the person who is considered a corporation can generate. So this is why you see everybody with their hands in the pot, whether it's the policy enforcers, they take you to see a commissioner, you have bail bonds, all of these people are agents of the state.
Right.
The judges benefit, the sheriff's departments benefit, the state's attorney, everybody that plays any part in this whole path to prison benefit.
Right.
And then you get whatever prison you go to. Now you're talking about the wardens benefiting, the COs benefiting, the warden staff, the county or the area that the prison is in. Those citizens benefit because the inmates or the convicts or the prisoners in the prison get counted in the consensus with whatever the area the prison is in.
That's right.
And so we know, the money is allocated based on the number of citizens. So that's another part of the scam.
And you know what? Before you go any further, I want to say that there are a lot of people that don't realize that. because I was listening to, I was a loyal listener to Mumia Abu Jamal's tapes. And
Right.
he mentioned that, and I honestly never thought about it. Like he said, it's not about where you came from, it's about where you're, like where you're located, where you're incarcerated, that determines the amount of money that they get in that area. And they use you as a part of the number, like you said, when they do the consensus, they say we have this many residents in this area, and that's how they determine how much money is given to that area, whether you actually benefited from it or not. And all this time I did not realize that until maybe last year.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So you know the human rights violations start long before a living and breathing person steps foot behind the walls of a prison.
Right.
So as you ushered in as just considered property or a corporation, then clearly when you get to the warehouse, you can't possibly expect to be treated like a human being when you haven't been treated like a human being throughout the whole process.
Yeah.
And so when you get people in here, you got the situation even with the water. They got a sign out front telling the visitors and the officers don't drink the water. But this is water we bathe in and have to drink 24/7.
Right, right, right.
That that alone is a supreme human rights violation.
Exactly.
Then you talk about the food, like you look at a menu, and the menu clearly tells you in small writing, of course, like most contracts that this corporation gets, but it clearly tells you that most of the food on the menu is not only most of it is processed, but that is also dangerous and hazardous. Like literally,
Wow.
95% of the food has the hashtag next to it saying that the food is hazardous. Because again, most of it is processed and all types of other genetically modified things to it. So
Right.
there's another uh, human rights violation, and we just talking about the necessities of food and water.
Right, right.
So, so I mean, you count 100 other things. Then when you're dealing with the incompetency of some of these COs, not all of them, but a lot of them, they're incompetent, they're disrespectful, they lack professionalism, and so oftentimes you may even get put in a situation to where a person is downright sadistic, gets off on seeing your suffering.
Right,
So,
right, right.
you might get handcuffed, 10 officers beat on you, throw you in a cell, don't give you no help, make you suffer. All them little games and tricks is played in prisons all over this country.
Yes,
All of these things are human rights violations.
absolutely. And you know how I am about the sunshine and the fresh air. Um, and I understand that you're not on vacation, you're not at some vacation site on an island somewhere. And I'm not saying that you should be treated as such, but I am saying that incarcerated persons are still human beings. And just like everybody else is needing fresh air and sunshine, incarcerated persons need that as well. And that's one of my pet peeves. You know that as well. So, like you said, there are so many violations and things that we could address. But let's move on to the medical care. I remember when this COVID outbreak first started, and of course, prisons are a natural petri dish of germs and bacteria anyway. Um, and then you add in a deadly virus. I can just not even imagine. And as a person with a family member in those situations, it was very stressful, even more stressful than normal, because you don't know what's going on. And all you see on the news is, how really bad it is. I was talking to one of the mothers through my organization. Her husband was incarcerated in another state, and she talked to him like every day, every other day, whatever the case may be. When COVID hit, she, wasn't hearing from him at all. I think she said like a week and a half, 2 weeks went by, and she kept calling up there trying to find out what's going on. And they, either don't answer the phone, or they just say, because of what's going on right now, we can't really talk, right? So I think like the second or third week she called and she got someone on the phone and demanded some answers as to what was going on with her husband. And she was told that they were getting ready to contact her because he had passed that morning. He had been in the infirmary for like 2.5 weeks with COVID, and he died from complications that morning. I couldn't even imagine that feeling, what went through her when she got that information. So as she was talking to me, she kept saying, why don't they have somebody there that could at least tell you so and so, this inmate, whatever, is in the infirmary, we'll get back to you, even if they can't give you a whole lot of information. Um, and I think that you and I had a conversation about this whole COVID thing. And one of the things that I remember you saying to me was, Mom, you have to remember that these prisons are human warehouses. They are set up only for that purpose. They're not designed to provide medical care. They're not, and it's certainly not on the level that we were seeing it during the pandemic. So, you get sick, hopefully if you get tested, you test positive, hopefully they'll move you somewhere away from everybody else. I don't even know if they were doing that. But medical care in prisons nationwide is like really lacking in every area. What have been some experiences that you have had or that you have witnessed from other people with regard to not receiving medical care that they need?
Uh, first of all, the, they get private contractors, just like everything else dealing with these prisons. People out there have to stop being under these illusions and falling for this false premises that the government as a whole is just failing in certain areas, but in other areas they're doing good. Stop saying the system is broken. Stop trusting these lying politicians and the agents that work with them. People got to get serious and get real about reality. And just like everything else with the prisons, which are now again on the stock market because they have private investors, most of them designers that people out there wearing, uh, news channels. Bob Barker is a name that you see all the time. There's so many names, but majority of them people celebrate as celebrities, are now private investors and stock owners of most prisons already built and being built. So everything is privatized now. And the same thing applies when you're talking about the Medicare. So they get these privatized firms with these bottom of the barrel nurses come in here just to say we have nurses on staff.
Mm-hmm.
of course, they don't have the proper equipment in order to funding to do what needs to be done. So again, a lot of stuff is like a de facto situation.
Yeah.
The same way with the whole government, it's de facto. So it's there in name, but in actual lawfulness or right and duty, they're not doing their job.
Wow.
But those private contractors, though, they get the contract, and again, the money is passed around.
So,
You know, it's the same have and have nots.
right, exactly. And so I have had conversations with lots of people, and I've concluded that there are a lot of people even dealing with, of course, the physical um, care, the physical health deteriorates in that situation because, like you said, the food is not nutritional. You're not getting the outside sunshine and fresh air that you need. You're living, sleeping, eating, bathing, using the bathroom in a petri infested environment, period. So, of course, your health is affected by that. Um, some of the stories I've been looking at on the news recently are about incarcerated persons who are really sick physically and not receiving the care they need and stuff like that. But I also want to address the fact that there are a lot of people who enter the uh, criminal justice system, and I almost hate using that term because I see very little justice in this system. But since that's the name that they go by, that's what I'll use in our conversation. But I see a lot of people that enter the system that do not necessarily have mental health illnesses or mental health issues. And then while they are incarcerated, they develop uh, mental health issues, and some even result, decide to commit suicide, whatever the case may be. Share with us some of what you have seen and witnessed in the time that you've been incarcerated with regard to the impact that being in this space has on a person's psyche.
All right. Well, even okay before that, like there's many men that throughout the years, again, I've been locked up going on almost 20 years now, and many men that I met along the way started out with who are dead now, where they had certain sicknesses, illnesses, went into the infirmary, never made it out. And men who were given the wrong medication. Medication pretty much poisoned them, killed them. They're dead now. And these type of things just get overlooked because again, people have this false notion that they in prison or they in jail, they're bad guys, they're bad people. When in fact, most of the people who think this way just haven't been caught because there's nobody who is not guilty of something that some other person would say is a crime.
Right, right.
But it's about who gets caught, who's in power, who's in charge. So that little whole idea of these fools who have those notions, like you said a while ago about not being on vacation. Well, the only person that would disagree with your mindset is a person who has the mindset of a slave master or a sellout who's trying to please the slave master.
You're right.
Because I bet you if they got a dog in the house, they take the dog out for a walk every day.
That's right.
They take the dog to mate when it gets to a certain time. Even animals in the zoo get the chance to mate.
Right.
You got men and women locked up in prisons for 20, 30, 40, 50 years And you telling me these people don't get a chance to make 24 hours out of a day? They don't get a chance every day to get sunlight. I mean, come on, let's be real here. But as far as the mental impact of being locked in here, again, seen many guys leave out of the rec hall, go in the cell, hang themselves, slit their wrist, cut their own throat. This is it's a situation where, quite frankly, that's why literally by the 13th Amendment, where it says slavery has been abolished unless you were convicted of a crime. So when we say that prison is the new plantation, this is not just slick speech. This is actual fact.
Right.
And this is why these places are designed this way. So they're designed to break you. While they make their money, just like while they made the money off of the cotton picking, now the cotton picking is these MCEs and other industries in prison that you forced to work slave labor for. And everything else you deal with is designed to break you. So if you allow it to break you, then this is what you see happening to people. They feel abandoned. They feel lonely. It's a hostile environment because everybody is on edge. You know, you put, if you put 100 people in a room and you put a loaf of bread in this room, and there's no way that you can get anything else to eat, what is going to happen with these 100 people? Everybody's going to fight and kill each other about this one loaf of bread. These are the type of situations that are created every single day. So if you find people who feel like they can no longer take this, this is why you also find people that come into prison that didn't have drug habits. They come in here and become addicts.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to deal with the monotony of the same, it's like Groundhog Day. Every single day.
Yeah.
You're dealing with the same things that are there to break you.
Absolutely.
And some people just can't take it no more.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And this is why, in with regard to the impact it has on the family, because some people who may listen to this may say, well, I don't see how that impacts the family because you're not there dealing with that. But when you care about a person, you love a person, and you know that they're dealing with the situation, you cannot help but be affected by it and be impacted by it. When you, and I know, we've said this before, there are a lot of things that go on in there that you don't even discuss with me, and I know that, because there's just some things you don't want me to know or to have to stress about or be.
60 seconds remaining.
But I know for a fact that everything that's going on in that prison impacts you. Ultimately, it impacts those who love you and care about you. So we're out of time today. We're going to have to finish this again, which we have no problem doing. But again, I want to thank you for your transparency and your honesty and for talking to me tonight.
You have 30 seconds remaining.
Yeah. I get at you when I get the chance.
All right.
Family's love.
Family is forever.
All right, Sean.
Nishani.